Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is Where Are They Now?, where I take a look at the last 5 years of games I've played, talking about what's made it, what hasn't, what stood the test of time, a usual few notes of just a handful of games every single month for the past 5 Aprils. I should clarify that, it's not like the past 5 years inclusive, that'd be a lot of games and a very long video. This is a bunch of selected games for the past 5 years worth of Aprils, starting off with April 2019. Let's talk about the Grimm Forest. The Grimm Forest from... oh my gosh, Druid City Games. The Grimm Forest from Druid City Games is a game I played, well, I guess 5 years ago. Generally, these are games I played for the first time of that month, but not always. But I enjoyed the Grimm Forest. I thought it was a lighter game that was overall fun with a great presentation and great production, and it stuck around for probably a year or two and ultimately did leave. It is a little lighter than the games I'm typically looking for, and I thought it was incredibly well done and incredibly well constructed. I think it's a good asset to the hobby, but for me, it didn't have enough teeth in any sense, either being an incredibly accessible gateway game or alternatively a meteor game that for me it didn't stand the test of time. On the other hand, we have a game like Leo, which I don't even think April 2019 was the first time I played it, but it is the first time I logged a play of it, possibly. But Leo is a game that I've had for years in my collection. It is a game that, for whatever reason, no one really talks about it. I talk about it whenever I talk about kid games or family-friendly games, but like to this day, I remember playing that with my daughter when she was like 5 or 6, and she loved it. And now she plays it when she's 12, and she still loves it. It is a great... I enjoy it, so I'm not complaining. Leo is a cooperative memory game, which I don't like memory games, but it does work in the cooperative format. You're basically trying to guide Leo to the barber, and then you're trying to remember who you stopped off along the way as you reset each round. You have a certain number of rounds to play. We generally win. It's not the hardest game to actually play if you are working together and or have an adult in the mix, but ultimately it's still a fun and satisfying game that we always have a fun time playing. It's always like, oh, we did it, or we got so close, or stop talking to that parrot. It's a really fun game. Leo the Lion, he's getting a haircut. Highly recommend checking it out. It's still here like 8 years later, 9 years later, however long it's been. Then we have Dale of Merchants. Dale of Merchants, another animal-themed game, but this one lasted in my collection for 3-4 years maybe. I really like the charm of Dale of Merchants. From Snowdale Design, I think it's a beautiful charm. It's got good gameplay. My biggest issue with it is I always found buying cards to be way too easy. It took all the meat out of it. Like when you play Dominion or you play many of these deck-building games, you're like, ooh, I can finally earn the money to buy that card. Dale of Merchants has none of that tightness. It is just a rapid-fire race to just like buying whatever you want whenever you want, and it removes some of the tension from the experience, but everything else in the game is excellent. I just found it takes some of the teeth out of the game the way it's constructed. For me, Dale of Merchants is a lovely concept. I kind of still want to own all of it because of how good it is in some areas, but I just felt it wasn't tight enough, so eventually I did move on from it. We have Tzolkin. I played this one, I believe, for the first time in April 2019, but I also played it a few years later as well. I drove back into it. Tzolkin is a heavier game that every time I play it, I feel like I want to play it more to get more of a sense of where it is for me and how it holds up. I think it's a really well-designed game, but I always find that I spend a little bit too much time stuck in the tightness of the game and a little bit less time stuck on how rewarding the game is. I find there's genres that really force you to crunch every single number, and the genres that let you optimize but you feel more rewarded while doing so, and each game has a type. For me, Tzolkin is a game I still want to like. I'll always be down for it, especially if you ever want to play it with the expansion. Like, I've never played the expansion. Maybe that enhances it further. I think I will always want to own Tzolkin, and I think for right now, I'm still deciding not to at the moment. We have Role Player. Not Role Play Adventures, but Role Player. A game I have consistently tried to make work for me time after time. I have not played all the expansions, I keep wanting to. Ultimately, for me, Role Player is a great concept. You're rolling dice, you're assigning them, you're trying to build your attributes, your backstory, score everything. I always have fun when playing it, and ultimately, I never find that I'm never as victim to the charm of it as many people are. Many people love this game, and I enjoy Role Player. I think it's a good game. I like Cartographers a whole lot more. Cartographers in the same universe. I like Role Play Adventures in the same universe, although I got burnt out on that towards the end. But Role Player is a game that I kept trying it year after year. Eventually I finally gave up on trying it. At one point I got the big box, and at one point I said, you know what, it's okay. Not all games have to be for me. Lord knows I can't keep up as it is. In April of 2020, we have Dvonn. Dvonn is a great game. I don't have it currently, but I've had that one for years. One of the longest lasting games in the Yinch series, or not the GIF series, the GIF series of games. It's a bunch of abstract games. I still have Tsar and Yinch, those are the only two left, but Dvonn I think was the last one to go before my last two here. I think it's really solid, really well done. I like most of the GIF series, but I like them to various degrees, and for me it's probably Tsar, then Yinch, then Dvonn, then Link in order of what I like the most. But I like all of them. I like all of them, and Dvonn definitely had some charm to it that I really enjoyed. Ultimately, it's one that stuck around for a while, for many, many years. Like, I don't know, since the first time I got it till whenever. I don't know how long it's been, but not long enough at the end of the day. We have Carson City. Carson City, great game, still in my collection. I played that for the first time, maybe 2015, 2016. Played it at a friend's birthday, and I probably talked about it in other videos. I don't know, like, this might be my first logged play. I don't know. Again, sometimes, like, because I only started logging plays in 2018 or so anything I missed to a certain extent from the earlier years might see first plays a little later on. But Carson City is a worker placement game that is a little different than the usual worker placement, and I love it. I think it's tense. I think it's cutthroat. I think it's not too mean, but it feels too mean. I enjoy playing it. It's got so many modules to the big box. I love it a ton. I think it's a great game, and I can't recommend it enough. And you could probably still get hands on a copy. I know they recently had a reprint campaign, so it's probably one that will still be available or in print in some way, shape, or form. But Carson City, great game from Xavier Georges. Then we have Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg did not stand the test of time, but that's not because it's a good game. It's because Caesar did it better, at least for me. Blitzkrieg sees the day in 20 minutes, or World War II in 20 minutes, and Caesar's sees Rome in 20 minutes, something like that. But that's a series of games. I think that they're absolutely fantastically well done. I loved Blitzkrieg until eventually Caesar came along, and Caesar to me just did it better. It was more thematic. It's a theme I care more about, and I like the dual placement aspect. But it's a tight two-player experience. I believe there's a solo mode, and I really enjoy the game. I think it's solid. The only reason I got rid of Blitzkrieg, it lasted in my collection for 2 or 3 years, and then Caesar came along, and then I had both for maybe 6 months, and eventually I was like, you know what? I just don't feel the need to play Blitzkrieg anymore. It's a wonderful world. It's a game that I've constantly tried to like and enjoy, and it's a game that I always do enjoy to an extent. I like It's a Wonderful World. I'll still play it on BGA whenever my friends ask. It's a good game, but I never found the charm in it the way I found the charm in Seven Wonders. I've tried again and again. One of the first videos I did on the channel was a comparison between It's a Wonderful World and Seven Wonders. Play this, not that. Spoiler alert, I chose Seven Wonders. But basically, I think Seven Wonders is better, and It's a Wonderful World I think is a very good engine, but I've always found it, I don't feel like I'm playing a game thematically. I feel like I'm just playing a color matching game. It feels very abstract to me, and the overall puzzle feels very, very tight. It's very rewarding at the end, but it feels too tight. Going back to that feeling, Seven Wonders feels like I'm just doing stuff, and It's a Wonderful World feels like I'm crunching numbers the entire time, which can be a satisfying experience. For me, ultimately, I've tried it with some of the expansions, not all of them, and I think it's I'm fine moving on from it. Coffee Roaster is a solo coffee brewing optimization game that was so good. I loved it, and I had it for maybe a year and a half, because ultimately, as much as I did love Coffee Roaster, it did feel like a optimization puzzle that once I got in, I don't know, 15 plays of it, I kind of felt like I had seen enough that I didn't feel the need to keep going. I think it's amazing. If you're a solo gamer, you should absolutely try out Coffee Roaster. It's beautifully well done, very thematic, it's coffee themed, nothing wrong with that. Overall, it's a very solid game, but it is one of those games that I fell into a certain pattern that once I'd played it enough, I was like, I'm good. I've done this game, I've seen this game, and I can move on and continue exploring other games. In April of 2021, we have Anno 1800. Delightful game. Grew on me more and more every single time I played. I love this game. I think it's so satisfying. It's a great little trade route production puzzle. It's kind of, I consider it brass light. That's what it is. It's from the same designer. It feels similar and yet different, but I love what Anno 1800 does. It's arguably the best game I have based on a video game, I assume. I'd have to go through them all, but I think so. In fact, I actually bought the video game because of it, played it for like 20 minutes, and then it sat there in my Steam library unplayed, like most of my Steam library. Also, like half my basement. I'm more optimistic. I'm just an optimistic person. I buy board games and video games because I'm optimistic. Not realistic. I'm eternally optimistic. Anyways, Anno 1800, great game. Still standing strong. Still doing great. Viticulture. Also a great game that is also standing strong, although I have my doubts about this one. When I first played Viticulture, I was in love. I was like, I avoided this game for so long. I thought it looked so dry, looked so uninteresting. To me, the art and just doesn't work for me. It doesn't. I wish there was a different version of Viticulture that looked better to me. And I know people like it. I don't. I don't like the look of it. But then I finally played it, and I loved the game. Loved it. And I still enjoy myself when I play it, but I don't find myself pulling it out and playing it as much as I, well, think I should, arguably. And it's one that I kind of give the stinky eye to now and then, but I know how much I enjoy it. I'm willing to get rid of it, but only after I play it. Like, if I played it and I was like, you know what, I'm good, that's fine, but I'm not doing that. Right now I'm only, like, willing to get rid of it in my head because I haven't played it in so long. But Viticulture, whenever I do play it, it's so satisfying. I have the Tuscany expansion. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. Every single time I play it, it's a fun little puzzle of trying to, well, place your workers and build stuff up and use tons of cards, absolute tons of cards. I don't know if it's a forever game for me. I don't know if it is, but I'm not willing to get rid of it until after I played it and sit there and say, you know what, that's good, I can move on from it. For right now, it's still safe. We have Valor Villainy, Minions of Mordak. I enjoy that one a lot. I had played that one a few times, gave it a 4 to 5, I believe, if I recall correctly. My biggest complaint was that it was too long, and that complaint unfortunately held true. Eventually it became a game that I realized wasn't game tabled as much as I'd like, relative to other games that I enjoyed more, and just it was a little bit too long for the experience. They did have Valor and Villainy, Ludwig's Labyrinth, which I still have, and that one I hope to be playing more of and actually diving into properly at some point. I played through the first mission, but that's it right now. And so I still like this system in the universe, but Valor and Villainy, Minions of Mordak probably lasted in my collection maybe a year and a half, 2 years before moving on. Then we have Tribune into Paramus, a game I had for a very long time, from like 2014 to maybe 2022, maybe something like that. Like it's that lasted there for a while. Ultimately, at a certain point, I realized my game group had evolved past Tribune. It was one of those hard days. I got rid of Tribune, but I haven't felt the need to get it back. It's a really well done worker placement game. There's some fascinating back and forth bidding. It can be a little fiddly at times, which I think is one of the things that hurts it a bit, but it lasted in my collection for, like, again, a good 8 years or somewhere in that range. But I haven't. Sometimes I'm comfortable getting rid of games, and I'm comfortable sitting there and saying, you know what, this is one I want back, and this one is one that I don't care about. And in the case of Tribune, I still think it's a great game, but I have not yet felt the drive to try to hunt it down and try to get another copy. So, for whatever reason, it's a great game that I moved on from for right now. We have Merchant's Cove. Again, from April 2021. Merchant's Cove, a solid game. Really enjoyed that one. The biggest problem with that one is, and I've said this like so many videos at this point, but I like Merchant's Cove. I think it's a good game. My game group, everyone I played the game with was more mixed on it than I was. And I know it's a game that has that. It has a lot of people who are mixed in it, a lot of people who like it. For me, it was my favorite game from Final Frontier. Now my favorite game from Final Frontier is Bardwood Grove, but that's based on one play, so take it with a grain of salt. I need to play it more. But Merchant's Cove was my favorite game from them, but eventually it got to a point where I realized I wasn't going to get it tabled unless other people were optimistic, and I've heard good things about the solo mode, but I passed on it. Ultimately, I decided I don't need it for the solo mode, and Merchant's Cove is still a great game that I'm definitely still happy to play, but it wasn't a game I was willing to fight hard enough to get to the table, unfortunately. So, again, last in my collection, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, and then moved on from it. Then we have April 2022. We got like 10 more games left to go through. We have April 2022, we have Almanac the Dragon Road, played that worker placement game for the first time from Scott Alms. Really well done. Still a charming game. I still have both in the series. I often think to myself I should probably get rid of one of them. Do I really need two of them? They're doing the same thing, but with different puzzles. But it's light enough and easy enough to play that for right now, we still have them both. And Almanac the Dragon Road is a fun little choose-your-own-adventure worker placement game. It's on the lighter side, but the journey is very satisfying, very rewarding. Definitely check that one out. We have Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning is one that I loved when I first played it, and then I played it more and more and more, and I still think Dead Reckoning is a very good game. It's a very good game. But it also is a little hard to table in the sense that I find that the best player count for it is arguably 2 players because it keeps the game at the most manageable time length. And once you're going to 3 players, it just tends to be longer than the experience I get out of it. And the problem is that 2 players is less confrontation. So it ends up being more of a Euro game than an actual conflict game. I think it's an excellent system by John D. Clear, by AEG. I think I think it has a large fan base, and I get it. For me, I very much fell in love with it. My first play, going back to like talking about Bardwood Grove, I think like my first play of Dead Reckoning would have been like a 4.5 out of 5. And it's dropped to a 4 for me. Still a good game, but a 4 given that game length. I did eventually get rid of it after 2 years. I think the point for me was when they came out with the expansion, I realized that I didn't need to back the expansion. And once I realized that, I was like, I therefore don't need the base game either. Usually if I love a game, I want everything. And I moved on. I was like, you know what, if I'm not willing to put more money in this game, it's because I don't love it enough. Very solid system though, that's Dead Reckoning. We have Ark Nova. Ark Nova, which is finally going to leave in my collection. I'll be doing a review for it at some point, but I've played it like 8-9 times by now, and every time I played it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to hold off and play it more because I feel I need to play it again to review it. And it got to the point where finally, 8 or 9 plays in, I'm finally like, you know what, I can review it, and I'm also confident that it's not a game for me. I respect what Ark Nova is doing. It's been around since I first played it in April of 2022. I think it's when I first played it, but now it's been around for like 2 years, getting the infrequent play, and I'm finally confident reviewing it, and finally confident to get rid of it. But after like one play, I was like, it's good, but where am I? And that series, that feeling continued to iterate for the first like 6 plays. Like, it's good, but I'm not there yet, and I want to see where the feeling settled. And the feeling settled on not playing it anymore. Again, I still think it's good. I still respect it. If someone wants to play it on BGA, I'm happy to do so, but I don't need to play it anymore. That's Ark Nova. Moving on from that one. We have Last Light. Again, in April 2022, played the prototype, I guess, for the first time. I think Last Light's fantastic. I've had a chance to play the prototype, the final game. It's worked incredibly well in my game group. It is a great game. It's a great, simple to play, fast playing game. It's not the best game, but like, there's almost the reverse opposite of Dead Reckoning. I think Dead Reckoning is a better game than Last Light in pure mechanical terms. But Dead Reckoning plays in 2 hours plus, and Last Light plays in 45 minutes to an hour, and that's just a different level of experience. I'm going to choose Last Light. It's easy to table. If I want a fun little conflict-driven game that'll last an hour, Last Light has you. The biggest complaint I have with it is the setup is a little annoying for a game that's an hour long, but you can get faster at it as you get better at it, as you play it more. I think Last Light's fantastic, and it's still around. We have Golem. Golem over here. I wonder whether this one will stick around. I do. I love the theme. The theme definitely helps stick around because it's very unique. It's hard to find like a Jewish theme that's well done in games, and not necessarily well done from the stance of doing like good credit to the Jewish theme, but a good game with a Jewish theme, even if it is, you know, involved rolling marbles in a synagogue. But either way, Golem over here, I think it's a really solid game. It does fall into that tighter feeling for me. That tighter where I feel more constricted and not like I'm doing everything, but like I'm just struggling to do anything, even though you are doing a lot of things. So I do wonder if it's going to last forever, but for right now, it's still safe. It's been a few years, I'm still enjoying it, and for right now, it's still safe in my collection. In April of 2023, the last month to go over here, we have Legacy of You. Started off strong with that one, but the more I played it, the more I realized that I didn't love the multiple plays I got of it. So Legacy of You for me was a strong starter, and then ended for me, unfortunately, after a few plays, after maybe 5 or 6 plays. I was like, you know what, I just don't need to keep going on this one. That one was lasted a few months and then moved on. We have Archer Once You Go Blackmail. I played that one on a flight to England, and I played Love Letter way back in the day. Archer Once You Go Blackmail is based on Love Letter, and it's a Love Letter game, basically. And I really enjoyed playing it. Like, I remember playing the original Love Letter and not being that enamored with it, but I really enjoyed Archer Once You Go Blackmail. It made me reconsider the Love Letter game. And I don't think it's the theme alone, although Archer always helps with the theme alone. But yeah, it's a game that I don't actually have it, I'm realizing. Technically, this is a game I don't actually have, but it's a game I'd happily play again and probably should track down a copy. It's a good little small box game to have in your collection. The Resistance Avalon. I got a chance to play this one as well in April 2023. I loved the Resistance for years. I've had so many plays of this. It's been a great party game through many phases of my life, and where I am with the Resistance Avalon now is I don't play it nearly as much as I used to, but it's been such a big staple that I still keep it around. There are some games I still keep around for when inevitably that time happens and that chance happens and those games are played, and it's a small enough box, and I have, well, actually I think I have Quest now, which technically has the Resistance Avalon in it, but same basic idea. But yeah, it's a solid game, still a great time whenever I play it, and it's just a game that doesn't get tabled quite as much anymore. We have 4 Northwood, one of the more recent discoveries over here. I love 4 Northwood. I continue to play this one. It's a great travel game. It's a great solo game. It's a great all-around game that I have so much fun playing and cannot recommend enough. 4 Northwood, solid game. And then lastly, we have Expeditions. Played it for the first time in April of 2023, Expeditions from Snowmire Games, and I love that game. I've gotten so many plays of that game in general, I play so many different games every year that diving into my older games that I love while exploring the hundreds of new games I play every year is very hard. And so when I play a new game and review it and I'm still continuing to table it, the amount of plays Expeditions has relative to like being a newer game, it's insane. It's a game I genuinely love and have so much fun with it. Like, new games are always interesting. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And then when am I going to play it next? I don't know. There's so many games to table. I want to play it. I do. But when am I going to? And with Expeditions, I managed to make the time again and again and again. That one's not going anywhere anytime soon. That is your Where Are They Now for the month of April. The past 5 years of April's 25 games this month. We had a full packed roster. I usually do 4 to 5 games a month. This month I just did 5 games every single month. But that's basically some of the games and how they've stood the test of time or haven't across the past 5 years. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.